You wake up, stumble into the kitchen, and stare blindly into the refrigerator. You reach for a plastic box of mixed greens. The expiration date was yesterday. You sniff it. It smells slightly sad, perhaps a bit metallic. You hold a single spinach leaf up to the fluorescent light of your kitchen, acting like a forensic scientist, wondering if this pathetic, wilted vegetable is going to betray your digestive tract. This is the zenith of our modern survival instincts. We are completely, hopelessly alienated from our food. But leave your kitchen for a moment. Rewind the clock. Drop yourself naked and shivering into a prehistoric forest. You are a caveman. There are no expiration dates. There are no Google searches to frantically type, "Can you eat red berries with black spots?" There is only you, a rumbling stomach, and a vast, infinitely green landscape filled with millions of plants. Some of those plants will give you the energy to outrun a saber-toothed cat. Others will liquefy your liver, paralyze your lungs, or make you bleed from your eyes until you drop dead in the dirt. So, how did we figure it out? From when did we possess the audacity to look at a forest of silent assassins and decide what was dinner? And why, out of all the animals on Earth, are humans the only ones who turned toxic chemistry into a culinary art? The answer is not a neat, sanitized story of heroic exploration. The mystery of our survival is infinitely darker. The secret to how we conquered the botanical world does not lie in a noble quest for knowledge. It is hidden inside a pile of fossilized feces, a peculiar human obsession with eating literal dirt, and an ancient inclination toward watching the weakest among us suffer. Welcome to the brutal, brilliant origins of human gastronomy. Before we were the undisputed masters of the planet, we were victims. The world before we knew what to eat was a relentless biological minefield. Plants, despite their peaceful, stationary appearance, are not your friends. They are the most ruthless chemical warfare factories on the planet. Because a plant cannot run away from a predator, it must fight where it stands. Over millions of years, they evolved an arsenal of neurotoxins, alkaloids, cyanides, and oxalates designed specifically to murder anything that dared to take a bite. And then there was us, early Homo sapiens. We were an evolutionary contradiction. To support our massive, energy-hungry brains, our ancestors had to make a biological trade-off. We sacrificed our massive, robust digestive tracts. We gave up the ironclad stomachs of scavengers and the complex fermentation chambers of herbivores. We became fragile. We required high-quality, easily digestible calories, but we possessed a digestive system that could easily be overwhelmed by a handful of angry seeds. If a vulture eats rotting, botulism-laced meat, it burps and flies away. If a koala eats toxic eucalyptus, its specialized liver casually filters out the poison. If an early human ate the wrong tuber, their nervous system would collapse in agonizing spasms. We were physically ill-equipped to challenge the chemical defenses of the plant kingdom. Every single meal was a roll of the evolutionary dice. The forest was an all-you-can-eat buffet where 20% of the dishes were laced with cyanide. Our ancestors lived in a state of perpetual, low-grade culinary terror. So how do we know when the terror stopped and the mastery began? Science rarely smells good, and the most compelling evidence for our dietary awakening comes in the form of ancient, petrified excrement. Archaeologists call them coprolites. To the untrained eye, they are just dusty rocks. To the biological historian, they are a time machine. Deep inside caves in South Africa and prehistoric settlements in the Andes, researchers cracked open these ancient time capsules and found something utterly bizarre. The coprolites from tens of thousands of years ago contain traces of highly toxic plants, lethal nightshades, toxic wild potatoes, and poisonous cycad seeds. But the humans who produced this waste did not die. We know this because the poisonous plant matter was intimately mixed with something else. It was mixed with kaolin clay and crushed charcoal. This is the absurd, illogical clue that shifts our entire understanding of human evolution. Our ancestors were actively practicing geophagy. They were eating dirt, but they were not eating dirt out of starvation. They had somehow realized that certain clays and charred woods contain negatively charged ions that bind to the positively charged toxic alkaloids in poisonous plants. Long before the invention of the wheel, primitive humans were manufacturing prehistoric Pepto-Bismol. They were intentionally ingesting lethal toxins and chasing them with chemical neutralizers dug from the earth. Genetics backs up this dirt-eating audacity. Look at the human genome, specifically the TAS2R38 gene, which dictates our ability to taste bitter compounds. In the animal kingdom, a bitter taste is an absolute stop sign. It screams poison. Animals taste bitter and they spit it out. Humans taste bitter and we pause. Our bitter receptors evolved not just to make us reject food, but to carefully measure it. We developed a highly sophisticated chemical radar in our mouths, allowing us to detect exactly how much poison was in a plant, so we could decide if it was worth the risk. The anomaly is not that we learned to avoid poison. The anomaly is that we actively looked for ways to eat it anyway. Now, let us kill a sacred cow. The most common, lazy explanation for how we learned what was poisonous is the trial and error myth. It goes like this. Grog the caveman ate a shiny red berry. Grog died horribly. The rest of the tribe watched Grog die, took notes, and told their children never to eat the shiny red berry. This is logical nonsense. If Grog dies, it teaches you absolutely nothing of value. Did the berry kill him? Or was it the water he drank afterward? Was it because the berry was unripe? Was it because he ate 3 handfuls instead of 1? Was the berry safe in the spring but lethal in the autumn? Nature does not offer controlled variables. Trial and error without a scientific method is just a fast way to go extinct. The truth requires a much darker look at human psychology. We did not learn by accidental tragedy. We learned through deliberate, calculated observation and ruthless social dynamics. We watched animals, yes. We observed which leaves the monkeys avoided and which roots the wild pigs dug up. But animals have different biology. What is safe for a pig can kill an ape. The real breakthrough came from observing our own kind, specifically the marginal members of our tribes. The desperately hungry. The outcasts. The sick. When a food source was scarce and a new, questionable plant was found, it was rarely the strongest hunter or the tribal leader who took the first bite. It was the desperate. Survival is an ugly business. We learned the boundaries of toxicity by watching the desperate take risks, and then we capitalized on their survival or their demise. But the rabbit hole goes deeper. We did not just want to avoid poison. We wanted its power. Ancient shamanism and early medicine were born from the deliberate microdosing of toxic plants. We realized that a leaf that kills you in a large dose might cure a parasite in a small dose. A root that causes fatal seizures in a heavy quantity might, in a tiny fraction, induce hallucinations that let you speak to the gods. The motive was not just caloric survival. It was biological hacking. We wanted to manipulate our bodies, our minds, and our social hierarchies. The tribe member who knew exactly how much belladonna it took to heal a wound, or to quietly eliminate a political rival, held the power of life and death. Poison was our first technology of control. Knowing what is poisonous is one thing. Knowing how to systematically destroy the poison is what made us human. This is the cognitive leap that separates Homo sapiens from every other creature on the planet. Consider the humble acorn. To a squirrel, an acorn is a perfect meal. To a human, a raw acorn is a bitter, tannin-filled bomb that will wreck your kidneys and destroy your digestion. For millions of years, hominids walked past massive oak forests, ignoring millions of tons of free calories. And then someone, somewhere, experienced a flash of absolute genius. They did not just eat the acorn and die. They picked it up and subjected it to an unnatural, violent process. They smashed it into a powder. They placed that powder in a woven basket. They let running river water wash over the powder for days, slowly stripping away the water-soluble tannins. Then they took the remaining paste, dragged it to a fire, and baked it into a flatbread. Think about the sheer, abstract brilliance of that sequence. Smashing, leaching, filtering, and cooking. None of these steps provide food immediately. It requires delayed gratification, an understanding of invisible chemical properties, and the mastery of fire and water as purifying elements. Animals adapt biologically to their environment. Humans forced the environment to adapt to us. Cooking was not just about making meat taste better. Fire was a chemical weapon we deployed against the plant kingdom. Heat denatures toxic proteins. Boiling dissolves lethal alkaloids. Fermentation uses safe bacteria to eat the poison before we do. We stopped being mere foragers. We became biological alchemists. We looked at a toxic world and realized that poison is not a permanent state. It is just a chemical puzzle waiting to be solved. This alchemical knowledge was not just a neat party trick. It was the absolute fail-safe that prevented the human race from fading into the fossil record. Picture the Earth during the last glacial maximum. The ice sheets are expanding. The climate is experiencing violent, catastrophic shifts. The vast, fertile forests are shrinking into arid, unforgiving scrublands. The megafauna, the giant mammoths and mastodons that provided easy, massive caloric payloads, are dying out. The hunting parties are coming back empty-handed. Famine, cold, and slow death are creeping into every human settlement. You cannot be a picky eater when the world is freezing. The only abundant plants left in these harsh environments are the ones so heavily armored with toxins that nothing else will touch them. Enter the ultimate survival test, bitter cassava. Also known as yucca. It is a dense, starchy tuber that grows in terrible soil and survives brutal droughts. It is an absolute miracle of calories. There is just one slight issue. Bitter cassava is packed with cyanogenic glycosides. When you chew it, an enzyme reaction releases raw hydrogen cyanide. Eating a raw cassava root is the biological equivalent of swallowing a cyanide pill. In the face of starvation, our ancestors did not back down. They engaged in a high-stakes, multi-generational war against the cyanide. They figured out that you had to peel the toxic skin, grate the flesh into a pulp, stuff the pulp into long, woven tubes to squeeze out the toxic juice, leave it in the sun to let the remaining cyanide gas evaporate, and then roast the leftover flour over an open flame. One mistake, one rushed step, and your entire family suffocates from the inside out. But they didn't fail. They perfected it. This complex, terrifying detoxification process allowed humans to tap into a massive, hidden reservoir of calories that no other species could touch. When the climate turned against us, we survived because we knew how to wash the murder out of our food. Our mastery over poison is the reason we did not starve in the dark. Fast forward through the millennia. The ice retreats. Civilizations rise. And what do we do with this hard-won mastery over botanical warfare? We don't just use it to survive. We build the modern world on it. Once you understand how to manipulate plant toxins, the poison becomes the product. We took the chemical weapons that plants evolved to fend off insects and herbivores, and we turned them into the foundation of global culture and economics. Look at caffeine. The coffee plant did not evolve caffeine to help you wake up for your morning meeting. Caffeine is a natural insecticide. It is a potent neurotoxin designed to paralyze and kill bugs that try to eat the coffee bean. What did humans do? We sought it out. We roasted it, brewed it, and built a multi-billion-dollar global industry around consuming sublethal doses of bug poison because we like the way it makes our hearts race. Look at capsaicin. The chemical that makes chili peppers burn is an evolutionary defense mechanism to stop mammals from crushing their seeds. It literally binds to our pain receptors, screaming at our brains that our mouths are on fire. Humans experienced this intense, fiery agony and decided to make it the cornerstone of global cuisine. We bred peppers to be thousands of times more painful. We actively seek the pain. Nicotine, aspirin, quinine, morphine, digitalis. The history of modern medicine, global trade, and the spice routes is simply the history of humans scaling up our prehistoric obsession with plant toxins. We fought wars over tea and opium. We crossed oceans for nutmeg and cloves. The very foundations of global capitalism were driven by our insatiable desire to consume the exact chemicals that nature designed to repel us. We didn't just conquer the poisonous plants. We commodified them. In the end, our journey from scared, starving apes to the apex predators of the planet did not happen because we found a safe path through the woods. It happened because we learned how to safely consume the dangerous one. This transformation was not sparked by a single brilliant mind or a lucky genetic mutation. It was a chaotic, beautiful symphony of biological evolution, cultural transmission, and extreme environmental pressure. We traded gut size for brain size. We used that brain to observe the weak and the desperate. We weaponized fire and water to alter chemistry. We survived ice ages by eating cyanide, and we built global empires by trading insecticides. Humanity is not defined by our harmony with nature. We are defined by our audacious, unrelenting defiance of it. Bring yourself back to the present moment. Look at the reality of your day. The next time you sit down in a cafe and order an espresso, or the next time you sprinkle hot chili flakes onto your pizza, pause for a second. You are not just having a snack. You are participating in a biological flex hundreds of thousands of years in the making. You are sitting at the top of the food chain, recreationally consuming a chemical weapon designed to kill you, simply because your ancestors were brave enough, crazy enough, and smart enough to figure out exactly how much of it you could take. We are the anomaly. We are the apes who eat poison for fun. So, look around your kitchen. Look at your medicine cabinet, your spice rack, your morning brew. What is your favorite poison, and how much of it does it take to make you feel alive? Let me know in the comments.